Hello there, and welcome to Dickens Unwrapped. I'm Matty, and today we're diving into one of the most beloved Christmas stories of all time.
Hi up, I'm Dave, and we're right chuffed to be chatting about Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol today. It's proper brilliant, this one.
Oh, absolutely, Dave. It's a classic for good reason. Published back in 1843, this wee novella has become synonymous with Christmas itself, hasn't it?
That's right, lad. And you know what's interesting? Dickens wrote it during a pretty tough time in Victorian England. The Industrial Revolution was in full swing and there were massive gaps between rich and poor folk.
That's bang on. Dickens actually experienced poverty as a lad himself. His father was thrown into debtor's prison, and wee Charles had to work in a factory at just 12 years old. Those experiences really shaped his writing and his concern for social issues.
Aye, and it comes through clear as day in this story. So, for them listeners who've not read it, or need a refresher, let's get into the plot, shall we?
Great idea. So, it all centres around this miserable old miser called Ebenezer Scrooge, surely one of literature's most famous grumps. The story begins on Christmas Eve, 7 years after the death of his business partner, Jacob Marley.
Aye, and Scrooge is a right main old fella. When his nephew Fred comes round to wish him Merry Christmas and invite him to dinner, what does he say?
Bah! Humbug! His famous catchphrase. He's having none of it. And poor Bob Cratchit, his clerk, is working in the freezing cold because Scrooge won't spare a lump of coal for the fire. Tight-fisted, doesn't even begin to cover it.
Don't it just make your blood boil? And when them charity collectors come asking for donations for the poor, he suggests the workhouses and prisons are good enough. Basically says if the poor would rather die, they'd better do it and decrease the surplus population.
Harsh words. But that night, something extraordinary happens. Scrooge is visited by the ghost of his dead partner Marley, who's doomed to wander the earth, dragging heavy chains forged in life by his greed and selfishness.
It's proper scary, that bit. Marley warns Scrooge he'll suffer the same fate if he don't change his ways, and he tells him 3 more ghosts will visit through the night.
Aye, and what fascinating ghosts they are. First comes the ghost of Christmas past, taking Scrooge back to see his lonely childhood, his kind old employer Fezziwig, and even the moment his fiancée, Belle, broke things off because his love for money had replaced his love for her. That's something that gets me every time, seeing how Scrooge weren't always a miserable old skinflint. There was goodness there once, buried deep. Then comes the jolly ghost of Christmas present, who shows Scrooge how others celebrate the holiday, including Bob Cratchit's family, who are poor as church mice, but rich in love and Christmas spirit.
And that's where we meet Tiny Tim, Bob's wee lad who's got a crutch and a bad illness. Despite all the troubles, he's still saying, God bless us everyone. Right tearjerker, that.
It really is. And I think that's when we start to see Scrooge's hard heart beginning to crack. The ghost also reveals 2 starving children hiding beneath his robes, ignorance and want, representing the poor of society. Powerful stuff, eh?
Aye. Dickens weren't just telling a ghost story, he were making a point about society. Then comes the final ghost, that spooky, silent one in the black hood.
The ghost of Christmas yet to come, showing Scrooge a future where he's died and nobody cares. People are actually celebrating his death, and poor Tiny Tim has died as well. It's the darkest part of the story.
That's what finally breaks through to the old miser. When he realises he's seeing his own grave, he's proper terrified and promises to change his ways if it gets another chance.
And luckily for him, he wakes up on Christmas morning with the chance to do just that. The transformation is amazing. Suddenly, he's giddy as a schoolboy, sending a massive turkey to the Cratchits anonymously, giving Bob a raise, and reconnecting with his nephew.
It's a right heartwarming ending, isn't it? And Dickens tells us that Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all and infinitely more. And Tiny Tim, who did not die, found in Scrooge a second father.
You know, Dave, this story has so many brilliant themes. It's about redemption, showing that it's never too late to change. It's about generosity and the Christmas spirit, but it's also a fierce critique of the social problems of Victorian England.
Aye, Dickens were using Scrooge to show how greed and selfishness hurt society. When the ghost of Christmas Present says, "If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, the child will die," he's not just talking about Tiny Tim, but all the poor and vulnerable folk.
Absolutely right. And you know what's amazing? The book was an instant hit when it was published, and it actually changed attitudes towards Christmas and towards the poor. Before Dickens, Christmas wasn't celebrated as widely in England as it is now. That's right. It helped to bring back old traditions and create new ones, and it's never been out of print since 1843. That's pretty impressive legacy, isn't it? Think about how many adaptations there've been too. Films, plays, musicals, cartoons. Everyone from Mickey Mouse to the Muppets has done a version. And each one keeps that central message that Christmas is about opening your heart, being generous and caring for your fellow man. Not bad for a story Dickens wrote in just 6 weeks to pay off some debts. Well, I think we've unwrapped this particular Dickens tale rather nicely. Thanks for joining us today, folks. Aye, and remember what Tiny Tim says. God bless us, everyone. Merry Christmas to all our listeners, and we'll see you next time on Dickens Unwrapped. Cheerio!